What happens when two of television's most beloved morning show hosts clash in a way that nobody saw coming? The answer lies in what started as a routine interview that quickly spiraled into one of the most explosive moments in daytime television history. Before we dive into this incredible story, make sure to hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments what you think really caused this heated exchange. The Kelly Clarkson Show had built its reputation on warmth, laughter, and emotional honesty. Celebrities walked into Kelly's studio expecting safety, understanding, and just enough vulnerability to feel real without being exposed. That morning felt no different. The atmosphere was light, the crew was relaxed, and the audience buzzed with anticipation. When Jenna Bush Hager arrived to promote her new book on resilience and family bonds, Jenna stepped onto the set wearing a navy blue blazer and her familiar polished smile. She greeted staff kindly, shaking hands and thanking people by name, clearly at ease in a space that felt friendly. Kelly, coming straight from a playful opening monologue about her kids, was full of energy. The stage was set for the kind of conversation viewers loved, meaningful, warm, and easy. At first, everything flowed smoothly. Kelly complimented the book, praised Jenna's storytelling, and spoke about how much the themes of strength and family resonated with her personally. The audience nodded along, fully relaxed. Then, with the cameras rolling and smiles still in place, Kelly asked a question that shifted everything. She leaned in slightly, her voice gentle but curious. How, she asked, did Jenna balance being authentic on television while coming from such a prominent political family? Was it hard to speak freely sometimes, knowing who her father and grandfather were? The question lingered in the Jenna's smile flickered. It was quick, nearly invisible, but it was there. She answered calmly at first, explaining that her family had always encouraged independent thinking and open expression. She insisted she was never raised to be a political puppet, but there was a subtle tightening in her posture, the kind that signals a conversation has quietly entered dangerous territory. Kelly, perhaps misreading the shift, pressed further. She mentioned pressure, public scrutiny, and the idea of being constrained by legacy. Jenna's tone remained professional, but there was a new edge. She corrected the framing, telling Kelly she was confusing personal growth with political restriction and that her family valued honest disagreement. The temperature in the studio dropped. Crew members exchanged nervous glances. What had started as a gentle, heartfelt talk was becoming something sharper. The audience sensed it too, leaning forward, unsure whether they were witnessing a meaningful breakthrough or the beginning of a slow-motion collision. Neither woman fully backed down, and that was the moment everything began to spiral. Kelly tried to soften the direction, aware she might have touched a sensitive spot. She clarified she didn't mean anything negative, only that she was curious about how Jenna carved out her own identity under such public pressure. It sounded reasonable, but the damage was already there. The framing had shifted, and Jenna felt it. Jenna pushed back more firmly. She pointed out what she felt was an underlying assumption in Kelly's questions. To Jenna, it sounded like Kelly was suggesting that political heritage automatically made someone less authentic. The audience started to feel the shift. What should have been light daytime television had moved into tense, personal territory. Kelly's voice tightened slightly. She insisted she wasn't trying to make accusations, only to explore unique challenges. That word, challenges, landed badly. Jenna straightened in her chair and explained that her background wasn't something she had to overcome. It wasn't a burden. It was a source of values and strength. Then came the comparison that stunned the room. Jenna asked if Kelly would question the daughter of a teacher about overcoming the limitations of growing up in an educational household. The line hit harder than expected. Kelly looked caught off guard for the first time, unsure how to respond. The studio went quiet, and even the crew seemed frozen. Kelly tried to regain control by emphasizing that she was only trying to explain how different Jenna's experience had been. Jenna agreed it was different, but said different didn't mean damaged. She pointed out that Kelly kept using words like constraints and limitations, as though her last name was something she needed therapy for. Kelly leaned forward, clearly defensive now. She insisted she never mentioned therapy and that she was just trying to be honest about what it meant to grow up under intense scrutiny. But the conversation had already turned. Jenna's patience was fading, and Kelly's pride was rising. Then Kelly's tone shifted. She spoke about privilege not existing in a vacuum. She said political legacy opened doors, and that it would be naive to act as though Jenna's last name didn't play a role in book deals, media roles, and speaking opportunities. The word advantages sat in the air like a challenge. The audience gasped audibly. It was no longer a subtle debate. It was now confrontation. Jenna's face went through shock, hurt, and finally anger. She asked directly whether Kelly was suggesting that she didn't deserve her career. Kelly tried to backtrack, but didn't fully retreat. She spoke about honesty and the importance of acknowledging privilege. That was the turning point. The conversation was no longer two hosts bonding over shared experiences. It had become something much more raw, uncomfortable, and personal. The room felt smaller, heavier. Everyone could feel that something irreversible had just been said. And from that moment, there was no going back. The tension thickened as Kelly continued down the path she thought was honest conversation. She brought up nepotism in media, saying Jenna's last name directly connected to her NBC role, book deals, and public platform. For Kelly, it was framed as a systemic discussion. For Jenna, it felt like a direct attack on her character. Jenna's voice dropped to a quiet, dangerous calm. She asked Kelly if she was seriously suggesting she didn't deserve her career. Kelly said she wasn't, but her tone lacked conviction. She didn't fully apologize. Instead, she doubled down, saying the conversation was about different opportunities and access. The studio felt frozen in time. Even the audience stopped shifting in their seats. When Jenna spoke again, her voice trembled, not from weakness, but from emotional control pushed to its limit. She reminded Kelly that she had been invited to talk about her book about resilience and family. Yet the discussion had turned into a public interrogation of her worth. Kelly, now clearly overwhelmed but unwilling to lose ground, said she was just trying to avoid softball questions. She accused Jenna of wanting gentle treatment because of who her father was. That line did real damage. The air vanished from the room. Jenna repeated the phrase slowly, almost to taste it. Because of who my father is. The silence that followed was crushing. When she spoke again, her words were measured, precise, and heavy. She explained that yes, doors opened for her. She didn't deny it. But she also described the other side. Death threats against her family. Living under Secret Service protection. Never having a normal youth. Every mistake becoming national news. She talked about relationships being picked apart, careers being questioned, and living under a microscope that never turned off. Her voice grew stronger. She spoke about war zones, grieving families, weekends sacrificed, stories she covered, and the work she put in. She said she earned her place, just as Kelly had, but while carrying political baggage that Kelly would never have to understand. Kelly's face lost its color. She tried to apologize, calling it a misunderstanding. But that word landed badly. Jenna questioned how publicly challenging someone's integrity could be called a misunderstanding. Behind the cameras, the producer was frantic, signaling for breaks, waving hands, trying to save the segment. But the momentum was unstoppable. Both women were running on adrenaline and pride. Public personas were gone. Raw humans sat on the stage. Kelly suggested resetting the interview, moving back to the book, salvaging professionalism. But Jenna's decision was already made. She slowly shook her head. This wasn't something to brush off. This wasn't heat of the moment. To Jenna, it was a matter of basic respect, and she had decided she wasn't receiving it. Jenna stood up. The simple movement sent a visible ripple of tension through the set. Viewers could feel it through their screens. This wasn't scripted. This wasn't rehearsed. This was real. She called Kelly's questions what she believed they were. Accusations dressed up as journalism. Not thoughtful probing, not meaningful dialogue, but personal attacks disguised as curiosity. Kelly instinctively stood as well, matching Jenna's posture, but without the same certainty. Kelly tried once more to defend herself, saying she only wanted a real discussion about privilege in media. Important topics, she said, that deserve conversation. Jenna's response was immediate. If Kelly wanted that conversation, she could have it with someone else. Jenna reached for her purse and the stack of books she had brought. For the audience, the symbolism was impossible to ignore. The segment was over, not by commercial break, not by producer cue, but by guest decision. Kelly pleaded softly for her to stay, suggested a commercial break, a private conversation, a reset off camera. Jenna paused and looked directly at her. Her words were calm, but they were final. The cameras weren't the real problem. The problem was that Kelly had decided it was acceptable to question her right to exist in the same professional space. She accused Kelly of confusing cruelty with insight and provocation with intelligence. She said Kelly had forgotten there was a real person sitting across from her, not a symbol or a talking point. Jenna straightened her jacket, walked toward the studio exit, then stopped one last time. She turned back and told Kelly she hoped she'd learn the difference between asking hard questions and being cruel. She said the audience deserved better than what they had witnessed. Then she left. The studio door closed quietly, but the sound felt enormous. Kelly stood there alone, surrounded by stunned crew and silent audience members. Nobody knew what to do. Someone eventually called for a commercial break, but it felt meaningless. The moment had already escaped the boundaries of television. What had started as a routine, promotional interview had turned into something much bigger. A lesson in pride, misunderstanding, and the fragile line between journalism and cruelty. The internet would later dissect every second. Body language, tone shifts, phrasing, intent. Some would defend Kelly. Some would side with Jenna. But everyone agreed on one thing. It was unforgettable. So, what do you think really caused this explosive confrontation? Was Kelly just asking hard, necessary questions? Or did she cross a line into personal attack? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more incredible stories like this.